You're listening to World News Daily on Reddit to Speech, a computer-generated podcast of the top news stories of the day on the subreddit World News. Here's our top story of the day.
Public outrage over a death penalty handed to a 29-year-old man is spurring Malaysia to start talks to legalize marijuana for medical use, racing to become the first Asian country to do so.
Here's a summary of the article.
Kuala Lumpur – Public outrage over a death penalty handed to a 29-year-old man is spurring Malaysia to start talks to legalize marijuana for medical use, racing to become the first Asian country to do so. The Cabinet, very briefly, discussed the medicinal value of marijuana in a meeting last week and has started early and informal talks on amending the relevant laws, Minister of Water, Land and Natural Resources Xavier Jayakumar said in an interview on Tuesday in Putrajaya. The Cabinet has reached consensus to remove capital punishment in the man's case, but garnering support for legalizing medical marijuana will be an uphill battle, Dr. Xavier said. Canada has taken the lead in developing the medical marijuana sector, creating an industry worth more than $60 billion ahead of legalizing marijuana use next month. In Southeast Asia, drug trafficking is often punishable by death, with little distinction made between marijuana and hard drugs like cocaine. Still, Malaysia isn't alone in looking into the medical marijuana industry. The challenge for Malaysia, which still imposes capital punishment for some drug trafficking offences, is how to draft new laws that are specific enough to differentiate marijuana for medical as opposed to recreational and other uses.
This post received a score of 47,303, with an upvote ratio of 91%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Most interesting thing about this article. The Prime Minister of Malaysia is 93 years old. WTF.
It's his second round of being PM too. Second round, after 22 years and 2 replacements later. That said, he's only acting as the caretaker until the de facto leader is released from jail. Edit, my bad, Anwar, opposition leader, was released the day after they won the election. Mahathir as caretaker, interim for a year.
So the actual leader is in jail. I feel like every piece of information I get about this whole thing just makes it stranger. Trust me, it's way crazier than you think. That guy is in jail for sodomy because the current PM sent him there.
I admit, it's complicated, but that's not exactly correct. Mahathir originally charged Anwar with sodomy, for blatantly political reasons. Anwar was at that time the Deputy Prime Minister as well as Finance Minister and was putting together the first viable opposition in Malaysia's first ever viable opposition. He was released in 2004 having served out that sentence. That movement became very strong to the point where the former GOVT had to literally steal the 2008 and 2013 elections through gerrymandering, and a wide range of methods of vote tampering.
Thanks for that. Not related to the matter at hand, but what do you mean by this? Quote, end quote, the most obviously corrupt trial outside of a Pink Floyd concert. Quote,
the trial from Pink Floyd's album, movie, The Wall, a trial for political, ulterior motives.
The song itself is more about Roger Waters' persona, Pink, sentencing himself to be exposed before his peers in an imaginary courtroom in his head while he has a mental breakdown in a bathroom though, but I guess the political connotations are present.
Yeah, I was alluding to both, I think. Political on the surface, but actually quite personal when you dig into it. And completely absurd either way you look at it. And sorry I misspelled Floyd. I can't change it now 'cause it was quoted lol. Then I'd be passing the blame.
Asian countries are incredibly strict with drugs. I was shocked when I landed in Bali and was greeted by this sign. Welcome to Indonesia. Death penalty for drug traffickers.
They're coming around. Thailand is also in the talks of legalizing medical use soon and recreational use in the near future. Ironically enough, the strictness came from Western influence. ASEAN, especially island people, are generally very tolerant and often users of weed. Thailand's a bit weird with drugs, they ban weed and stuff but still sell Xanax and Valium over the counter to anyone.
Here's the next top story.
British teenage girls are among the heaviest drinkers in Europe, and have overtaken boys.
Here's a summary of the article.
Teenage girls in the UK remain among the heaviest drinkers. In all these nations, at least 30% of teenage girls had been repeatedly drunk, around twice the rates in Italy and France. The study led by the University of St Andrews shows that while drinking among British boys has fallen so far that it has vastly improved their rankings in European league tables, British girls are still among the heaviest drinkers. It comes amid rising levels of anxiety among teenage girls, fueled by social media, and rising levels of self-harm. The statistics show that in 2002, 54.7% of English girls had got drunk at least twice previously, falling to 30.9% in 2014. The position of Welsh girls remains unchanged since 2002, as second heaviest drinkers. Scottish girls went from 5th to 4th ranking, with 32.9% having got drunk twice when surveyed in 2014, compared with 51.8% in 2002.
This post received a score of 9,960, with an upvote ratio of 95%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Can I have 4 sambucas?
This is the DJ booth.
My name is Beth. 4 Sambicas.
You won't be accepted to the party if you indulge in alcohol, sorry. Strict healthy policy.
AAAWH, can you make it 4 rum and coke thene?
Yep, my younger sister is 18, has literally binge drank at least once a week since turning 18 and was binge drinking before that.
Yup, I have gotten into the position to see my younger sister, 17, and her friends after picking them up from parties. It feels so weird on the other side of the lens. Still quite nostalgic for it though. I'm on the wagon now.
The honey wagon?
No. He's quite literally picking them up on a wagon.
Bring out your drunks. Another victory for the UK. Get in.
Also in the news today, less British teens are binge drinking than ever before. Win and fucking both games at once, boys.
Greater than win and fucking both games at once, boys, certainly on the losing side now according to the article. But in this case, better to lose.
Quote, win and fucking both games at once, boys, certainly on the losing side now according to the article. But in this case, better to lose, end quote. No, we're winning. They finally got their equality, and we got our health.
Unfortunately, women also have a far lower tolerance for alcohol than men, roughly half the amount, so even drinking the same amount puts women well over the recommended limits. That is why this is so significant. Liver scarring etc. will be a serious concern for these people in approximately 20 years.
Don't forget swallowing a load of paracetamol in the morning to make the hangover go away, stressing the shit out of the liver even more.
Ibuprofen is the way to go for drinking. You can take it the night of as well and not destroy your liver. Edit, see sourced comment further down.
NSAIDs can give you stomach and intestinal bleeding or lead to kidney damage if you mix them with alcohol. They have a label similar warning in the US, don't take if you have 3 drinks or more a day.
I was always told to take ibuprofen with food to give the digestive system a bit of protection as the ibuprofen diffuses.
Even when taken with food, ibuprofen is known to tear your stomach apart. I had to take with food for IBS, and the doctor told me to stop taking all NSAIDs when she realized through endoscopy that these drugs were causing microulcers all over my small intestines. You want to be cautious about when to take ibuprofen, and it should definitely not be for protecting your stomach. BC it does the exact opposite.
Here's the next top story.
69 confirmed dead in Congo as Ebola outbreak spreads.
Here's a summary of the article.
Ebola virus disease has sickened 150 people and caused the deaths of at least 69 people in the Democratic Republic of Congo's northeastern region, the nation's Ministry of Health reported Monday. An additional 31 deaths have occurred among probable and suspected cases, which would bring total Ebola deaths to 100 once confirmed. On average, Ebola kills about half of those infected, but case fatality rates in individual outbreaks have varied from 25% to 90%. In a tweet posted Monday, Dr. Peter Salama, WHO Deputy Director General of Emergency Preparedness and Response, stated that a case in Chioma, an area of Congo that borders Uganda, raises concern about further spread. A previous outbreak, which began in May and ended in July, affected a western region of the country where 54 cases of Ebola virus were recorded, including 33 deaths. Teams of healthcare personnel in areas outside Beni are continuing to conduct field work, including providing vaccinations, according to WHO. Since August 8, the ministry has been inoculating people at high risk of an Ebola infection, primary and secondary contacts of those with confirmed Ebola infections. The experimental RVSV-ZEBOV vaccine, made by pharmaceutical company Merck, proved highly protective against the deadly virus in a major trial in Guinea, according to WHO. Ebola virus spreads through direct contact with either bodily fluids or objects contaminated by someone ill with the disease, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Beyond the medical response, the only way to end the Ebola virus disease epidemic remains the mobilization and commitment of the community alongside the health authorities, Kallinger said in a statement.
This post received a score of 6,308, with an upvote ratio of 97%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Map of the affected area.
I sure would hate to be in Nord Kivu about now.
I'd hate to be there regardless of whether there is an Ebola outbreak or not. Hasn't quite been the most quiet region in Congo for a while now.
That's why it might be hard to contain an epidemic. It's not safe for medical personnel to be in the area to attempt to contain it. In addition, people fleeing violence can spread the disease to neighboring areas.
If I could go a couple months without worrying about a worldwide pandemic, I would be so happy.
Liar. You'd worry about the redacted. I started writing a list and I realized I don't want to do that to anyone. Don't worry, it's not going to get you. You're okay. You're safe. Edit. Hey look.
That's so cute.
It better fucking be cute. Oh my god, it is.
To avoid panic, the Congo has a population of about 85 million, so this is literally a 1 in a million thing.
Ebola in general is not worth panicking about unless you live smack in the middle of the affected area. Ebola is only spread by direct fluid contact, and has a pretty short incubation period before symptoms manifest. It's just not a good candidate for a major pandemic, and that's why efforts to control outbreaks have generally been very successful. The biggest challenge is just getting people to segregate themselves from the infected and avoid contact with the bodies.
A place like Bangladesh would be a terrible example.
Yep, densely populated slums in large cities. Cultural custom to handle bodies after death. Poor health services. Civil instability. Poor sanitation. Largely uneducated populace.
Guys, I just had an idea for an epic prank.
What? Take New Zealand off Google Maps and not tell anyone.
Oi. That's the only map that, hopefully, will never let us Kiwis down. Leave New Zealand alone.
I don't see an issue here. A country can't be mad if it doesn't exist.
I have no argument for you, slightly frowning face.
I thought it was 6ix9ine the rapper for a second.
Same here. I just read that he died of Ebola in the Congo and accepted it as something completely plausible in this reality.
2018 is so crazy I didn't even do a double take at first.
As Bill Burr once said, a symptom of Ebola is that you have an extraordinary urge to go to an airport.
Here's the next top story.
More than 300 endangered turtles found dead in discarded fishing net.
Here's a summary of the article.
Hundreds of turtles have been found dead after becoming tangled in a fishing net off the coast of Oaxaca, Mexico. Mexico's Federal Agency for Environmental Protection announced more than 300 olive ridley sea turtles were found floating together, their shells cracked from spending more than a week under the sun, while trapped in the net. The sad news comes just a few days after another 113 turtles were found dead, washed ashore in Mexico's Chiapas state, around 100 miles from Oaxaca, reports National Geographic. Brian Wallace, a marine biologist who's studied sea turtles for almost 20 years, suggested the turtles in Oaxaca could have been victims of a ghost net. As smaller animals get caught in the ghost nets, they can attract larger predators and scavengers, who in turn, get caught in the net. 300 endangered turtles were found dead off Mexico's Pacific coast after they became caught in fishing nets. Yesterday in Barra de Colotepec, more than 300 olive ridley turtles drowned entangled in a fishing net. Authorities in Mexico banned the capture of sea turtles in 1990, and there are large penalties for anyone found killing them.
This post received a score of 5,552, with an upvote ratio of 97%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
And this was actually found. Imagine how often instances like this go undiscovered.
God, I hope they find the people who threw that net out. I am generally a level-headed guy, but this gets me thinking really inappropriately as to punishment.
Yeah, good luck tracking down which particular boat tossed this particular net. That only amounts to 8% of the total tonnage.
We need to stop eating fish to stop the demand for fishing. It's the only way to save our oceans.
IMO change needs to be applied top-down and be significant. Bottom-up changes are not working and won't work. People are never ever going to change their behaviors for environmental reasons.
I did. The fish and animal agricultural industries are no longer supported by me. Be the change you wish to see in the world and others will join in.
I theorize that change is not fast enough.
That shouldn't be a reason not to do it as well.
Anytime I hear news about sea turtles I get depressed. I'm 90% certain I'll live to see their extinction. I've been hearing the rising ocean temperatures have already been causing most eggs to turn out female.
Now I wish I were a male sea turtle.
By the way,
Those poor turtles. What a tragic waste of life.
This is the best TLDR I could make. Original. Greater than Mexico's Federal Agency for Environmental Protection announced more than 300 olive ridley sea turtles were found floating together, their shells cracked from spending more than a week under the sun, while trapped in the net. Greater than as smaller animals get caught in the ghost nets, they can attract larger predators and scavengers, who in turn, get caught in the net. 300 endangered turtles were found dead off Mexico's Pacific coast after they became caught in fishing nets.
Guess that what the tortolans get for flooding the water with turtles. The circle of life can be cruel.
A turtle has made it to the water. Sad face.
A turtle didn't make it in the water. Sad face.
A turtle has made it to the fish nets.
Feeling good about banning plastic straws now? Something like 40% of ocean plastic is discarded fishing gear. The only way to reduce this is to stop supporting fishing companies with your wallet. Stop buying fish and make a real difference.
It's time to start getting aggressive with cleaning our planet. If it were up to me, the world would be healed by force.
I have started my own personal crusade by either very forcefully telling people who litter to pick up their shit or going as far as to throw stuff I've seen people just throw out of their vehicle back into their vehicle if I can. Possibly unsurprisingly, a lot of the people who litter also drive pickup trucks. I drive a lot for work, so I see it more than you'd guess, and I just got so fucking tired of it.
Here's the next top story.
Satellite images show runaway expansion of coal power in China. World News.
Here's a summary of the article.
Satellite photos taken in 2018 of locations in China reveal cooling towers and new buildings that were not present a year earlier at plants that were meant to stop operations or be postponed by orders from Beijing. The projects are part of an approaching tsunami of coal plants that would boost China's existing coal capacity by 25%, according to the research group Coalswarm. The total capacity of the planned coal power stations is about 259 gigawatts, bigger than the American coal fleet and wildly out of line with the Paris Climate Agreement, the group said in a new report. This new evidence that China's central government hasn't been able to stop the runaway coal-fired power plant building is alarming. The planet can't tolerate another US-sized block of plants to be built, said Ted Nace, executive director of Coalswarm, which is funded by international green groups and private donations. Satellite photos analyzed by Coalswarm show many power stations have continued to be built, including the Weidian Nanzhuang station in southeast China. Other photographs show water vapor emerging from cooling towers where there was none before, such as at the Zhoukoulongda power station in central China, which indicates a plant burning coal and generating electricity. Coalswarm said that given China had about half the world's coal power capacity, the country's coal policies have an outsized effect on global climate prospects.
This post received a score of 2,577, with an upvote ratio of 95%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
China cheating? GTFO.
Vacking.
But it wasn't China, it was China's brother. It's true, and here is proof. China's father will now write too. Hello, I'm the father and what my son says is true. He did not cheat, it was his brother on my account. Please unban him, Valve. Sincerely, the father. PL's unban.
Fucking Clara.
Clara always cheating on people's shit.
And no one was surprised.
Apparently the plant was, look at the thumbnail upside down.
Spongily. No way. It's just not possible. I mean, a couple months ago they were leading the world in clean energy and renewables. I just don't know what to believe anymore.
Futurology on suicide watch.
Collapse in mid-orgasm. There's a formation of clouds forming over the mid-Atlantic. Collapse faints.
Damn it, China, you were all set to take the renewable market by storm and you go and expand coal. Disappointed.
It's China, they don't play by any rules but their own.
And half the time they don't even play by those rules, face with tears of joy.
This is the best TLDR I could make. Original greater than satellite photos analyzed by Colswarm show many power stations have continued to be built, including the Wadian Nanzhong station in southeast China. Greater than other photographs show water vapor emerging from cooling towers where there was none before, such as at the Zhoukou Longda power station in central China, which indicates a plant burning coal and generating electricity.
But they signed the Paris Accord.
It's nothing more than a show of support, because it's not binding at all. You can shit all over it, but you wouldn't be able to violate it. That's also why people made such a big deal out of the US not being part in it, as it shows that they don't even want to try to reduce emissions.
Opening square bracket. And #X200B. Yeah, we don't want to try like China, we also don't want to send money for China to ignore their optional targets. And #X200B.
U.S. leads carbon emission reduction as long as you only use gross numbers and don't look at per capita or percentage, and also ignore that the U.S. is still one of the worst both gross and per capita. I mean really, arguing that the UK only reduced 170 meters compared to the U.S. 700 meters? The UK was never emitting 700 meters to reduce in the first place. I agree that China needs to do better, but fuck that article.
This has been World News Daily on Reddit to Speech, a computer-generated podcast of the top news stories on Reddit. All of the articles and comments in this podcast were selected according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention. If you'd like to provide feedback, please send your comments to username, Reddit to Speech.